Speaker, the former managing director of Time magazine, Henry Anatoly Grunwald, once said, "Journalism can never be silent. That is its greatest virtue and its greatest fault. It must speak and speak immediately, while the echoes of wonder, the claims of triumph and the signs of horror are still in the air." For communities of the New England and North West, Mr Temporary Speaker, and particularly those in the electorate of Northern Tablelands, this immediacy, this virtue and occasional fault, this act of journalism is under serious threat again for the second time in 3 years. I spoke in this place back in November 2015 about a date forever etched in the minds of residents of the Northern Tablelands, the 5th of November, when Fairfax Media outlets across the North West region were told that there were going to be mega staff cuts right across the region. Absolutely shame on them. I acknowledge the interjection of the member for Cessnock and the member for Gosford. Shame on them. Across our famous and popular mastheads across the region, nearly 30 journalists, staff and photographers were all given the chop. And journalism has been, and the spirit of our country communities has been, the biggest loser as a result of that. Papers like the Guyra Argus no longer have a shop front in Guyra. Their newspaper is produced in Armidale. The Walker News the same, it's produced out of Armidale. The Glennis Examiner has one journalist when they used to have three. The Moree Champion staff was halved. The Namoi Valley Independent at Gunnedah, the Armidale Express itself, the Inverell Times, all profitable mastheads that had been around for more than a century, proudly serving their communities, reporting on all sorts of matters, whether they were the CWA 50th anniversary, the cake stall at the local school fete, through to the big issues of government funding announcements like new hospitals and schools, or cuts, or various other political intrigue. Those mastheads have been a staple of every dining room table, of every discussion around the kitchen table, at every home, in every community in the Northern Tablelands and across country New South Wales. That has all changed in the last 3 years, Mr Temporary Speaker, and unfortunately I am again concerned, and I'm raising in this House very strong rumours that I'm hearing that Fairfax, and with the looming takeover of Channel 9 and Fairfax, who have said publicly that journalism, newspapers, not really our priority. I've heard disturbing news that I'm calling on Fairfax to come out and deny, and that is that some of these well-known, beloved mastheads will be closing. No. I've heard that the Guyra Argus will be shut down completely and retired. I've heard that the Glennis Examiner will be retired after more than 100 years of proudly serving the Glennis and Highlands communities. It will be shut down. This, Mr Temporary Speaker, cannot be allowed to happen. No. It would be an absolute tragedy, but it would be a kick in the guts to those communities that need and deserve their local publications. They need and deserve to have their local news retained. It is an important part of the heart and soul of country communities to have that journal of record where people can pick up the newspaper and see the sporting results from the weekend, how their grandkids went at the local Eisteddfod, or learn about what's happening in council news with their local council, or what their state and federal members are up to or not up to, whatever the case may be. Mr Temporary Speaker, I'm calling on Fairfax Media to come out and announce publicly what the future holds for the mastheads across the Northern Tablelands electorate. The Moree Champion, the Inverell Times, the Glennis Examiner, the Guyra Argus and the Armidale Express. And while I'm at it, I reckon they should come clean about the future for the Walker News, the Northern Daily Leader in Tamworth, my old paper, the Northern Namoi Valley Independent at Gunnedah, because the futures of those papers are important to the people, not in my electorate, but in the region of the New England and North West. Newspapers are important in a climate where we're seeing contraction of local media, centralisation of local media, and where people get very few opportunities now, whether it's in radio, television or print, to see local news about their local community Increasingly, they're being fed stuff that comes from Sydney or other parts of the state which isn't local and isn't stuff that they're interested in. I'm not interested in it either. We want to see our local news in our local newspapers, and I call on Fairfax to come clean to the community about the future of their valued local newspapers.
Stop the